Hello, Julia. I am so excited that you're here today and that we were able to book a time to talk and explore with each other because we've never met. And all we wanted to do was put the two faces together, two energies together, and see what might happen.
Hi, Denise. Yes, it feels so natural to be talking to you. It just feels like we must have met before. We must know each other from prior. It's just, I feel such beautiful resonance with your vibe, with your teachings, with everything you represent. So I feel extra joyful today for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you so much for reaching out, and I'm super excited now to introduce you to my audience and everyone who will be guided to our video conversation, because from what I've learned about you as I took time to research your website, your YouTube channel, your work, you are a passionate teacher, historian, and it seems that the highest excitement has led you to explore in depth indigo frequency and frequencies of souls that I identify as master souls. So indigo, blue ray, violet ray, and now also crystal souls, rainbow souls. Did I miss any? Diamond
There's the
souls.
big one we're going to, which is the diamond frequency that
Yes.
we now have on our planet that has changed everything, right?
Oh, I'm so happy that to meet someone who is dedicating their all time to researching this and teaching, sharing what you're coming up with, and of course then also attracting all these wonderful high frequency souls where you can then collaborate and expand this on a quantum level, right? There are these big leaps once the group collective comes in, it starts growing so beautifully. So yeah, so the name of your website is Denise Dryden. Is that how you pronounce your surname?
Denise
Denise
Dryden.
Dryden. And so is your YouTube channel. And I would really like to invite all the viewers to go and see the YouTube channel because you have invaluable content and just mind-blowing conversations with your wonderful friend, Lisa Gunshore, talking about what it means to be an indigo soul or any others that I've mentioned, this high frequency. I'll just call them master souls, and or activators, or change bringers, the evolutionaries, guides, teachers. There's such a huge amount of these, and I know personally from my work over the last 7 years, my strong attraction point is these aspiring leaders, teachers who go through quite challenging childhood, teenage years, early adult years, so many challenges, really heavy duty stuff. But then a point comes when they shift from victimhood, confusion to self-empowerment, understanding, and then deep desire to lead others out of darkness into light, into joy, into abundance, and all that. So you have a wealth of information available for that particular level of consciousness. So go check it out, everybody.
Thank you. And I would like to return the favor. This is the Mutual Admiration Society here, right? So this is Julia Balaz. And did I say that correctly?
Perfect. Yes. Thank you.
And I came across you through an interview with Elena Denon, and you have a website that's Quantum Healing Journey, and it's in Ireland. So it's an IE at the end, right? So I'm at .com in the US. And you do galactic astrology. You can pinpoint through the zodiac chart and the trines and the connections where our planetary axis influence is from, which has been something that it's been a blind spot for the work, which is I know I can recognize these children or teens, when they get to be about 13, 15, 16, the family lineage clashes hit. And I came into it through therapeutic programs where kids were shipped off to wilderness programs and therapeutic boarding schools because the family system couldn't work with them or the parents. And knowing that there's a galactic reason for that there's lineage work, that we are doing deep DNA mining and uncovering, means that this work that I do and you do provides validation. So what I noticed in how you read and in the different sites, because I think I watched just about everything on your website, is that you can watch the receiver go like, Oh, it's so true. And their eyes water up and they're like, that's me. I know this has always been me, but I didn't know. And so what I've noticed is that these galactic masters who have volunteered from all over every galaxy we can find to come in and do this earth work have this veil of forgetfulness. So there's suffering and there's trauma and there's hurt feelings and there's victim energy that if we can move them out or help them sort of dust it off and put it way behind them, then they become that leader, that master that our world needs. So our work is just woven together beautifully from completely different angles. I love
I
it.
love that. Yes. Oh, absolutely. And I have to say, you can approach this certainly from the intuitive, tuning into soul records, just feeling the frequency and letting your heart guide you and inform you that, yes, you are this high frequency and you came here for a higher divine purpose. Or you can take this from the left brain, analytical, logical, the scientific researcher, wired person, where you can look at astrology and look at the natal chart, and it's all there too as a validation. So for many people, seeing something like that, black and white, is crucial, because unless they see it, there's always this element of doubt in them that is not allowing them to fully let go of those old victimhood and confusion and not good enough identities. So it's wonderful that we can now, bring together a huge amount of data and start validating some of this information from a galactic perspective, and it's really all there. So
I love that you have used logic and science to support and to build this knowledge and information. When I first came across this, I was in admissions watching this very specific kid come in over and over and over again, which I got kind of used to. And you kind of get used to that oppositional, defiant, rebel Indigo, right? They're just not going to take much, and they're truth seekers. And then I noticed in about 2005, the profile changed and it started to go to a very quiet, introverted, vibrational kid. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, what just happened? And that's when I started going to my channel and asking very specific questions where I could access the masters who were, and then documenting it, right? And I transcribe everything and going, yes, that's the energy frequency, that's this. Then I knew how to approach it, but I didn't have that scientific base. So for me, what I struggled with was, how do I provide some sort of a reference point for questioning parents, especially because in the private therapeutic industry, these are the big heavy hitters of the world. They're the researchers, the Harvard, Yale graduates, the politicians, the entertainers, the Fortune 100s. And so I came across Elaine Aron's work on the highly sensitive, and that was the clinical piece that I could at least use as a touchstone. And so I've been looking for other touchstones since then to be able to direct someone with a very logical need for facts structure to have something to hold on to, because you and we know what intuitive information feels like, and we've trained ourselves over the years to work with that.
yes.
However, someone who hasn't trained that needs something to hold on to.
Absolutely. I've seen it over and over. Yes.
Yes.
So we have created a website that is freely accessible to everyone, and there is no need for login, or it doesn't store even your data or anything. You can just enter your birth details and get a free report showing you what 54 most common big stars alignments are present in your natal chart. Because what we believe, based on years of this work, is that when a soul is indeed coming from different star system, coming here as a galactic master soul, during their time of birth, because our universe is arranged mathematically, geometrically, in a very specific way, this quantum entanglement that is occurring needs to be supported by very precise geometrical alignments of planets, stars, all the celestial bodies. So we found that soul coming, for example, from Pleiades at their time of birth will have Pleiadian connections in their chart, either to sun, moon, or any of the planets in their astrology. And likewise with any other, Arcturians, Sirians, so on. So, but with regards to these higher frequency master souls, I found that they are multi-galactics. It's not just one. We cannot pinpoint just one, and this is Indigo and all the others aren't. They are multi-galactics. And equally with zodiac signs, we cannot say that, Arians, Aries, strong Aries will be the Indigo and the others will be different frequency, or Scorpio or any. They are in their zodiac charts. What I'm seeing with these master souls, that they have a very busy, very complex, just traditional astrology chart alignments, to the point where you can see how they are meant to integrate all 12 signs, archetypes of consciousness, and become a whole being, raising into that 13 sign of master that sees everything from higher perspective. So we cannot really just say one or the other. Mm-hmm.
And what I noticed is that with the zodiac, yes, taking on each of the 12 signs makes sense. And then making sure, and I sort of moved over towards the elements, which is there are 4 elements that are represented. So then how do you work with the pains or the challenges or the gifts that come with water, with betrayal? And so I, was able to identify a core wound with each of the elements, and then say, how do you bring all 4 elements so that you can hold those at all times within your system? Because I come at it from a tarot reading, right? Which is like, I know those 4 elements really well. So it's beautiful to take it to 4 elements, 12 zodiac signs into this 13th level of complete galactic or intergalactic or multi-galactic mastery.
Yes, absolutely. And I have to say, for anyone who isn't a left brain logical researcher type and really just intuitive, you don't need to dig deep into all these. This really is just, different people need different permission slips to evolve further beyond the point they're at. So all this is just a stage, and eventually, once you get to understand how you think and this kind of divine orchestration behind everything that ever happened to you, once you release all the false identities and limitations, then you will drop even this labeling of blue master souls and all that. Even that will no longer matter, and you will just be an embodiment of compassionate wisdom, encouraging others to become sovereign beings. So I want to always highlight this, that we are not clinging to these labels. We are just always moving on and helping those that are needing it right now. Would you agree?
I have had my butt handed to me so many times by the masters when I'm like, okay, can we work with Asperger's, or can we work with Indigo, and they're like, we're going to hold this label for you right now because that's how you gather. Like, put it all in the file and then just drop it and open it up and allow it to see. And when you were talking about having all of this linear analytical information around you, I was imagining what it's like when, if it's scattered all around you, like everywhere you turn, there's a zodiac sign that's talking to you, an aspect, an element, an image, is not different than when you go for a walk out in nature. And when you really calm down and listen, the flowers are showing you something, the trees are showing you something, the rocks where they're placed, the way that you're moving through it, the level of relaxed consciousness is wisdom embodiment, right?
Oh, so beautifully highlighted. Yes, definitely. And then, of course, it's also in relationships and everything, not just nature. When you mention the elements, what I'm seeing is that if someone has over developed element or too much of certain element in their being, they will always attract someone who have the polar opposite of that, and they're always partners that are opposing each other, or true children. And we are so supported towards our path of completion and wholeness. There are always, missing pieces of a puzzle. They are presented to us. We just need to pay attention and then just be in awe and gratitude for the magical game that we are in. Yeah.
In these last 2 to 3 years, my favorite statement has been, and then that happened. And literally all that I can do is just go, okay, so that just that just crossed my path, and there's no reaction. There's
Yes,
no anger, there's no fear. There's just like, one that just happened, and then this one and this one, and I wonder what they mean. And
I
so
love that.
we
Yes.
become, whether we train through each of these vehicles or any other vehicle that we haven't, brought in at this point, whether it's astrology, history, reading, galactics, um, it all is just information that either validates and allows us to start stepping into ourselves. And that's my whole point in identifying these four energy systems and their intentional seeding. And that's what I wanted to sort of talk to you about with this is it possible to have an intentional frequency seeding that arrived at a certain time, and then watching what happens with it, and then to be able to validate at all times. It was hard. You had no memory. You had to go inside and say, I have the skills somewhere in me to handle this. And not very many of us as humans have that kind of maturity or wisdom at birth. It's something that we take 20, 30, 40, 60 years to figure out, right?
Yes.
Oh, that's what I'm here to do, which is to stop being hurt and reacting to everything around me, and to start guiding and modeling as a master. That's what I came to do.
Yeah, the clarity that just came through is, I think that intentional seeding is actually coming from the resonance of the earth herself and our sun and the entire solar system. The solar system must be going through this evolutionary frequency where it became an attraction point for certain frequencies coming here really in millions.
Right.
That's why we are all here at this time. So
I like the idea that Gaia is actually Gaia Terra, Earth, that the call comes from there. Because
yes,
one of the things, and you've watched some of the work I've done with Lisa, is understanding what does a frequency really do, and how does it partner with Earth and the grids, and what happens when there are nefarious controlling races or what do we want to say, species that suppress and control and enslave. And then what happens to our grid work system when we do that, and what Gaia can do. And it's like, let's just bust this open. And that's where the indigo is sort of like the one that came after in my thinking, because I was trying to figure out this crystalline kid, or this crystalline vibration. It's almost whale-like. It's vibrational, and they hold, and they have strategies for how they hold. And then they needed protectors. And then I went back and created the information or I created a profile of the information about the indigo, which is the warrior protector, sort of truth seeker, who's the dismantler.
Yes, and I have to say, many times in solar alignment sessions, whenever there were two indigo parents, their child was reading as crystal child. So it absolutely must make sense. It makes sense why that is required. And then the rainbows are also coming with these. What I've noticed with rainbow, I haven't met a pure rainbow soul frequency yet, but I've met many who are indigo who have rainbow layer around them, and their path was to attract rainbow children who are yet to be activated. So I've met several of these, and I'm going to actually release one soul reading session with one person like that, and what her mission is. It's so amazing. So there is definitely a divine orchestration, and everything has to be a frequency match and a precursor for the next higher level and higher level. So what I love on your website is that you have a coaching for parents who are raising this super high octave consciousness of children that are just completely different to what we ever had on Earth before. Do you want to comment on that maybe a little?
Yeah. What I noticed is that I started coaching parents in 1995 on, like, hey, how can I help give you a different perspective of this unique creative being that you have as a child? And some parents were highly resistant to it, and others, trained, adapted, new perspectives very well. And what I noticed is that it doesn't help to come in directly on the parent first with the child. It helps to go to the parent and go like, what do you know about yourself first? Who are you? What do you know about your own wounds, your own reactivity, where it influences you? And then I think you'll notice that the second kind of offering is, how do you create stability and adaptability right now when things are changing? So if the world goes like this, you don't go into your old patterns, you go, okay, and you right yourself, because those two precursors or fundamental skills are super important when we then start to go, so I have a diamond baby, I have a rainbow teen right now, I have a crystalline child, and we aren't connecting. And so we start with ourselves, because everything begins and ends with ourselves first. So I dropped doing dual parent coaching about 3 years ago, because unless both of them were super aware of who they were and how they played off of each other, it was just like watching a ping pong game all day long. So I went to one parent and enhance that, and then would work with a second parent if they wanted to, or both simultaneously, but on separate schedules, and then kept presenting this vibration or this frequency of the child, because each frequency is completely different. And what I noticed is that let's if we're dealing with the concept of familial systems and frequencies, it's not any different than a fish tank that's in perfect homeostasis and balance, and everything's moving along, and then you drop a fish in there that is not from that area, or territorial, or a turtle or something, and the whole tank is like, what is that? And it just sort of shakes around, and sometimes it gets dirty and it doesn't work. Sometimes other fish die, until it comes back into homeostasis. So now you have both frequencies learning homeostasis. So it's possible for an indigo parent to have a crystalline child and start to attract more crystalline vibrational, because they've now learned that. Then you drop a rainbow in there and it frenzies all over again. So as we progress through these frequency upgrades that are placed, strategically to move us forward, our bodies now reflect indigo, crystal, rainbow, and diamond. So the indigo warrior, the truth seeker, the vibrational co-creator from Venus, right? The love, everything is cause and effect, and they're the holders. And then you have the rainbows, which are the blenders. They're the ones who really go across all of those lines of polarity and say both, not one or the other, both. I can be in a boy body and like girl things. I can be a young kid and have a best friend who's a 80-year-old down the street. There's
inclusion.
It's an inclusion blending. And I like to think of them like the bees who go from flower to flower and integrate everything, right? And then all going towards the diamond, which is the purest frequency of what I think is our future, our Aquarian age. And these are the early groundbreaking diamonds who they couldn't even hold on this planet until maybe 2008, 2009, 2010. They'd come and go like, can we do it? Can we do it? No, not yet. And then they would leave through, miscarriages, through stillbirth, through sudden infant death syndrome. They would hold as long as they could until they realized that frequency is just too hard, can't breathe here. And now we as a human race and as a planet have created a safe place for them to now come, and they're coming in mass.
I love this conversation so much, and it brings a really important point for all the indigos out there, all the master souls out there, that for a little while, maybe all of us guilty of this self-importance, and I'm here on this mission and it's so important, but actually it's all about the future generations, and we just need to cop on and go into that humble experience of the importance of holding space and clearing any illusions, limitations, ego traps and all that. And really we just need to create that safe space, because what these children will bring through, we cannot even comprehend or imagine the quantum leaps that are yet to come.
Have already happened. I mean, we can look at how far we've come And when we look at the indigo as being the dismantler or the destroyer, Lisa and I talked about this last night. Our job is done. We have literally destroyed every structure and institution that existed on the planet before the 1950s. Or after the before and from the 1950s to, well, when they came in mass in the late 70s forward, everything's fallen apart. Everything.
Totally. We're watching it.
And no, we didn't do anything outside of just have jobs, raise families, do our own work. And it's an invisible, powerful frequency that changes everything that it comes in contact with. And there's enough of us on this planet that everything that couldn't hold just collapsed.
Yes.
Powerful and
Absolutely.
angry, sort of frustrated group of a population that just needs to be recognized and said, thank you for the tremendous pains that you went through in order to destroy these old structures and institutions. You are a master. I thank you for that. That's what our job is to make that, help that soul.
Yeah, the acknowledgement and validation is transformational, really. I've seen it so many times. If just one person can see you for the courage that you came here with and appreciate you for the sacrifices, it can release such a huge amount of grief and pain. And suddenly finally someone sees me and I can now just move on. So yeah, so important. So I would like to just bring attention back to that calculator to help people. If I invite everyone to go to starseedsastrology.com, put in your birth details, and if you will see a lot of different fixed stars alignments like Pleiades, Arcturus, Aldebaran, Hades, Procyon, all these, you will most likely see a really busy chart because we have a huge amount of these multigalactic souls here. Perhaps you can start recognizing that, yes, indeed, you are one of them, these paradigm shifters. And perhaps you can start accepting the value of you being here and allowing universe and this earth bless you with all the wonderful things that are yet to come to your life. It's all about accepting that you are worthy of these blessings, allowing it, and then just watch the magic happen, synchronicity and guidance, and just follow your excitement, your passion. And certainly I encourage everyone to also look at their children's charts if you have children or nephews, nieces, and start getting
co-workers.
You can definitely go down the rabbit hole, and it usually takes people on a journey for several weeks, even months, but it's just a stage. Once you really, your consciousness starts expanding so rapidly, and it will really help you see from a much higher perspective than you ever were allowed to see it. It's very healing, transformational, expansive, empowering. And then once you're done with that, at some point you'll be like, yeah, I'm okay now. And you will just drop into the here and now and live your life in a much higher frequency. So
standing a little taller and having more awareness of the attributes that you brought with you from other parts of our universe. I love that you offer this free, that people can go and do this. And then when they want more information, they can schedule a very specific, I think it's a 3 or 4 hour reading with you, right? Where you...
Yeah, not with me. I don't do these anymore. It's physically impossible to do that. Now I hold space for students of my courses. So I created courses where people can go very deep or just basic, just for themselves, or have this as a career. There's a huge demand for galactic astrology, soul readings. Just the waiting lists are so long for all the certified practitioners, and many are in the course now that are yet to be certified. So it's an amazing journey and super wonderful community of this kind of frequency, soul consciousness. So everyone is welcome.
I love it. Thank you. I think that this is a beautiful gift that you've given the world.
Thank you, Denise. How is your book? You recently launched a beautiful looking book, and I see now on Amazon. Tell us about
Indigo assignment. First book I've ever written. I've probably had it inside me for about 2 or 3 decades.
Exciting.
I love it. I found out that I love to write. I absolutely love to write, and I found my voice. It is me saying, hey, have you thought about this? And what if? And here's something to ponder. And let's look at some old traditional ways of looking at history and say, well, what if it's different? And so it's available on Amazon. And what I've noticed is that I'm a newbie at this. I need to be able to make that accessible to the UK and to Europe, unless there's any restrictions in going through the Amazon.com US system. But it's on Kindle and in paperback.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Congratulations. You must be so proud. And it's just one of many
Well, it's one of 4. So the idea was to, in when I moved into this place last week, what I was guided to do was to take, leave everything in boxes and only put up behind me anything that would hold for the crystal assignment, because that's the next project. So what I've been asking for is parents of crystals, indigo parents of crystals, or crystal clients who are like, hey, can we start playing with what this whale sonar vibrational, deep resonant emotional work can be like. And so that I had probably 350 psychoeducational testings on just what the indigo kid looked like before I even started to write it. So now I have this sort of about the same amount for the crystal. And so it's like, let's start writing on that. So it's sort of a call to the book and a call to clients who want to explore that, because we learn together, right? Whatever you bring into the call, I learn how to talk and phrase it or bring it out. And I learned more than the client does most of the time.
Yes. You know what? I'm going to share a gift with you all, with all the viewers. So in my course, the Quantum Soul Guidance course, we have a whole module on working with pendulum or muscle testing and tapping into soul records. And there is one pendulum chart that I would love to share now with the audience. It's on checking in on soul color frequency, and it includes diamond and rainbow and crystal and all that.
Fabulous. This is such a nice surprise.
So that's what the chart looks like. I'm going to add it to my website as a link, so it'll be then linked under YouTube video, and you're welcome then to upload it to your page if you want to. So here, whenever anyone works with the pendulum, any hanging object, you should only do it when you are centered, at peace, frequency of love. Just everything is fine. Never do that work when you're triggered, when something is off. You need to ground yourself first, connect with your highest self, and then ask that divine intelligence inside you, can you please show me the most dominant frequency in my soul? And perhaps, as you know, we are multidimensional, so there are many layers to you. And perhaps on a human level, you're right now accessing light blue, and then on a higher level you are accessing indigo, and on a divine level, when you go different numbers of densities and dimensions, there it could be golden. I don't know, it's so unique for everyone. There's usually multi-colors, but just what is the most dominant frequency of my being? Even you can ask, experiment with different ways of asking, and then you have these different colors that I have seen over and over with many different people. So, and then you can ask about your children, always with permission. Do I have a right to have permission to know about the most dominant color of the higher self of my child? Yes, no. So there's lots of free information online on how to work with the pendulum, but I just find this chart really helpful because we added crystal and diamond and rainbow and all that.
I love it. It is such a gift to have this tool where now we can use our own inner guidance and then take with it what comes up. And sometimes it changes, sometimes it moves around, and to learn, what does that mean? Now, as far as resources for, let's say that I do learn that I have some purple colors in me, or some white, where do you go to find out what the frequency of those colors are? What resources have worked for you?
Okay, so I have a whole lesson that I put together based on years of reading people soul colors and what that means, how it shows up. It's a very long lesson. I'll be happy to actually make a free preview of that lesson, let's say for a month, maybe even longer. I have so many free previews there. I'll think about if I close it at some point, but let's say for a month now, I'll leave it open so people can go in and have a look what every color means in our everyday life, because it's really there. I have a client or a friend actually now who is a magenta. His most dominant is magenta. And when he was dowsing on his parents, magenta shows up at the end and at the beginning of the rainbow. So his mother was reading as red and his dad was reading as purple, or the other way around. So it was like a combination of the two then that allowed him to merge the two colors. I thought that was fascinating. It's always amazing how we have to prepare the stage for the next generation. So yeah, have fun with this, guys.
Thank you. That is so generous. And by all means, underneath in the description, there will be the links to how to find your website, how to find my website, how to order the book, how to get to the color chart and the color definitions. I think that, the idea is to become resourceful, because once we learn something, what I like is every time that I learn something new about either my galactic heritage or my skill sets or my frequency, there's a part of me that just sort of bursts open, and my field becomes much more open for more. It's kind of like, well, that was cool, I want more. Yes. And so, there are those of us who are continually learning. And I was reading a little bit about the Orion star seed and realizing that, it is this anyone who comes through the Orion system through at some point picks up this passion for lifelong learning and knowledge and
resourcefulness.
Yeah. And entrepreneurial, which I just thought was hilarious.
It's so accurate. Yes.
Yeah. And to know in your website, your videos, your YouTube channel is so informative. So we want to make sure that connection is there. Do we have time for one more quick question?
Yes, thank you.
I was wondering, I've encountered this several times with either adoptions where they don't know their time of birth. Mm-hmm. And what I was able to do with the last couple of clients, and it was just watching them expand, was having them use either a pendulum or muscle testing and working on, they might have known the date, but they didn't know the time, or they might have known the month, but they didn't know the date. So what do you do? Do you have them do their own self-discovery, or do you do that for them? Or what do you work with someone when they don't know their exact birth date or time?
Such a wonderful question, and I'm sure it would have come up. So I'm so glad you asked it and voiced it. So I have free preview lesson for that particular case. There are 5 different ways, because it just keeps coming up, and I'm pretty sure now I know that I will leave the soul colors lesson open forever, because it just helps. So yes, you can absolutely tune in, and the higher self knows there is a record of that exact information. So you do it through pendulum. So in that free preview lesson, which we'll link in the video description, you can follow 5 different ways. You can do it first that way with pendulum, or you can then, once you have an approximate information, you can double check it by playing with the actual astrological chart description, and you can move it by minute or seconds or half an hour, hours, and you will see what changes. I pointed out in that lesson what you need to look out for, and then you will just know that, yeah, this is exactly who I am, and you'll just know for sure that, yes, that's my time of birth. And it works. I've had many people doing this, going through the process, and then some of them were able to retrieve their birth cert with the time of birth, and it was accurate. So our soul knows. It
does. And I had one particular client that when she found the time, she just sat there and tears just rolled down her eyes, and she goes, I know who I am now.
Oh,
it was so powerful. So powerful. Okay, so one piece that piggybacks on that is, have you ever come across walk-ins where you have somebody who, and to me, walk-in can be one of 2, probably many more options, but I'm going to just focus on 2 right now. That one soul is holding the body, and another one comes in, and this one says, you got it, tag, like a relay team. Or the 2 of them come in and they integrate, and they become versions of upgrades or souls. What's your experience with working with astrology when that may be prevalent within that
Yeah, I know what you mean. I am well aware of the topic, and personally, I have not attracted a walk-in soul to my work, apart from a colleague of mine in QHHT session. We did exchange sessions together, and I know she is a walk-in. She had a period of transition where she literally was going through process of dying of her physical body, and in complete seclusion, and she felt the transition happening. She's a powerful, beautiful shaman teacher. So we just know that there was a walking, and at that time I didn't have I've never actually looked at her astrology. I might so I have not attracted that kind of person, so I didn't study their astrological charts and data. But from what I know about the topic, from just connecting to others, then if it's true that a new soul walked in, then when you look at that time and date and that astrological chart, it will have different fixed stars alignment, and you will feel a frequency of different even galactic soul. But there's always resonance also with the original soul and original chart. There will have to be quite a strong compatibility in terms of alignments and aspects for the new soul to be in somewhat in resonance with the body constellation. So that, and I do recall now, I had one soul realignment session when there was a shared body by two souls. And that was quite confusing for the person and their relatives as well. That's always very challenging, and it's very hard to read for someone like that, because you have two different souls and sometimes can be labeled as mental illness and schizophrenia and paranoia and I don't know what. And actually, if someone would read for that person, that might see that there are actually multiple souls sharing the body for whatever reasons. Yeah. So it's a big topic.
It's a huge topic, and I would imagine that because we work on a contractual basis, which is like, hey, we're going to do this, that the two can be melded even into the astrological chart, and you can pick up on, that's odd because when I read about her, she's here, but I also pick up on this, which means, and so it's another way to pursue some curiosity and go inward into your own research and your own journey, which is what if. And the reason I ask that is that within certain frequencies, sometimes it was easier to bring a frequency into, like, for example, within the book, we talk about the Indigo Scout, which is the person who came in anywhere between 2 to 20 years ahead of this en masse in 1977, which meant that they put themselves in positions of teachers, coaches, religious, guidance counselors at camp, places where they were that wise one who kind of said, oh, let me help you out right now, or let me just show you what life could be like. That it is a very separate position than the parent, which is to provide some sort of guidance. And a lot of those earlier ones came into existing bodies because the plan was initiated after, I don't know how to explain it. It was just
that makes so much sense. I hear you. Yeah, totally. Totally. And I have to say, for something like that to occur, what's coming through now is that there would have to be, most likely there would have to be a pattern of kind of fragmented consciousness in the family through abuse and confusion. So that the child would be raised in a very confusing environment and unpredictable, because then the body also needs to have that level of fragmentation for that to also occur. So, and therefore, if there is a practitioner that kind of is attracting this type of frequency of walk-ins, I would ask the practitioner to reflect on their own childhood. Was there a fragmentation within the family lineage and confusion? And it's important to clear that and work on that. Or if it becomes your mission, then of course it's perfect, and you work with that if you know how to handle it in a grounded way.
You align and you attract what you need to. That makes the most amount of sense to me, Julia. Is that, I look at how we all gravitate towards a period of time when we needed someone the most. We end up becoming that, whether it's, hey, I need someone to really show me what to do with my money, or I really needed someone to to hold my hand through middle school and high school because it was terrible, or I needed someone besides my parents to be able to talk to, then we end up focusing on that age group. Some of us like working with early 5, 6, 7-year-olds. I personally, give me an 18 to 21-year-old and they're sort of done with high school, but they don't know what to do and they're trying to individuate. I'm like, hi, let's talk.
And it's the time when you needed most support.
Yes. Yeah. And the time that I understand what it looks like and feels like. There is a frequency in me that can spot it, feel it. And I am a coffee shop aficionado. Like I read my cards, I do my work, I hang out at coffee shops, and I love these little baristas, and they'll kind of come up and go, hi, what you doing right now? And I'm like, oh, there you are. And they just twinkle. And I'm like, well, just look at you, little rainbow, just shining.
I love that. I love that. That brings me to an important topic in our astrology point of Chiron. I believe you mentioned that, and that's how you were introduced to it. This is what we are just talking about there right now. When your wounds become your path of a healer and helping others with the same wounds, this will be revealed to you in your astrology. If you want to look at it in your Chiron, it's spelled Chiron. If you get your free astrology chart, most of them will show you your Chiron's zodiac sign and the house which is in, and then you need to look at the meaning of it. There's plenty of free resources on that, including books on just Chiron. It's your wounded healer. What was your biggest wound, and what are you guided to do with that to help others with
and what gifts were you trained to do as a result of having this wound, which was, we're going to train you, we're going to train you, we're going to train you,
right?
And then the house shows us the element, which is like, oh, it's always going to come in fire for you, or it's going to come in emotions, or it's going to come in mental with the stories telling that you do. So look at how beautiful that element and that sign is for you, for your training. So it's Chiron. I love Chiron. It has ended up being the how do I say this? I don't directly hear anything or have a direct knowing. What I do, it's almost like my guides and my higher self love to give me Tetris problems. They throw 5 or 6 things out there, and I'm like, and then when it goes, I'm like, oh, that's really good. And they chuckle, like, hey, you told us to make it fun and entertaining and a lot of work. And I'm like, gee. And so this Chiron is just sort of like a big puzzle, and it's easy to go to the wound. We can all go to the wound, but transitioning that into our mastery and our strengths, it's almost like, shucks, no, that's not really me. And it's like, yes, stand up tall. Let that be who you are and what you were trained to be.
So much guidance there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It works really well with indigos, by the way. Chiron and indigos, perfect combination. Very good. This is wonderful. Is there anything else that comes up that I think we could talk for 3 hours.
And I would love to do this again in future. Will be interesting to see the feedback from our audience, and whatever questions may arise, we'll definitely be happy to do this again. No, I think this was a really, really awesome first call. Thank you so much, Denise. Such a joy.
You have a lovely rest of your evening because you're in Ireland, and I'm starting my day here in Montana, so we will enjoy.
Beautiful. Take care. Much love.